Every Sunday, Angelique Mukabukisi thanks God for her deliverance. She hasn't much else to thank him for. Her parents are dead, her husband is dead, her 2 young children are dead.
Ko tugomba kugarura urukundo tukagarura amahoro Kristo yatwifurije kuva igihe yabibwiraga abigishwa be ati mbasigiye amahoro.
4,000 people once worshipped every Sunday in Nyamata. Of course, the village had a church in those days. It still does, but the living don't use it anymore. One day in April last year, Angelique and thousands of others fled there for sanctuary. There they were found by the Interahamwe, those who attack together. And there, together, they died.
Noneho abinjiriye hano batangiye gutema no kujya bakubita abantu nta mpongano. Twebwe hari imbere kuri aritari haza umugabo arahagarara ati stop. Musigeho. Muri kwikora mu nda umuhutu kazi nazamukemo. Ubwo bamaze gushiramo rero nibwo batangiye kuza kutwica. Umwana wanjye uw'imfura muramukazi wanjye yaramuhetse bamutikuye igicumu hano byo nararebaga ahita arerembura mu mugongo arurutsa ashyira hasi. Umutoya nawe bamukereye ijosi hano bamukereye ari mu mugongo wanjye.
There have been massacres in plenty in the tortured history of Rwanda. But this was something different. This was genocide, planned and deliberate, authorized from the top, widespread, ruthless and barbaric. For nearly a year, investigators from the UN High Commission on Human Rights have been counting the bones, measuring the graves, interrogating the survivors.
Ultimately, what we want to do is document the genocide completely. We're talking about what could easily be 1 million people, and we're talking about 4 months. And you don't have gas chambers, do you? You don't have trains to drive those guys in there. You got people going out with handheld weapons, the majority, and killing with their biceps, if you like. So it's an amazing thing that happened here, and for us it's very important that it's very, very well understood.
It's now over a year since the people in this church and hundreds of thousands of others were butchered. It's known how and where and when they died. Many of the perpetrators have been named. And yet, so far, not one single person inside Rwanda or out has been tried and sentenced for any of these crimes. The dead, perhaps, are past caring, but for the living, the issue of justice, of legal retribution, is crucial. Wounded minds take longer to heal than wounded bodies. Many of the children at the Samaritans orphanage near Kigali saw their parents hacked to death before their eyes.
Yes, we can recognize when children have amputations when they've stepped on a landmine. And yes, we can see when a child is starving or an epidemic occurs in a camp. But we can't see the wounds, the intrapsychic wounds, the scars of trauma, unless we stay for a while and look closer beyond the surface of the children who appear happy and playing.
In truth, says psychologist Leela Gupta, it's not just the children, but a whole population which is traumatized by grief and shock.
The major solution that I would see that's so closely tied into adjusting and working through and coming to terms with this kind of grief is the justice system, is the sense of retribution, a sense of accountability for the perpetrators of the genocide and the violence.
This is the prison at Gitarama, an hour's drive west of the capital, Kigali. It was built to house 1,300 prisoners, in conditions which most Western countries would regard as intolerable. Today, it's holding 8,000. Many of these people have been here for 8 months. The crushed ears and festering feet were the result, the prisoners claimed, of beatings by the guards. The Red Cross ensures a supply of food and fresh water. As a result, the death rate has declined from 15 to 5 a day. But there's still no room to lie down.
Où est-ce que c'est possible à dormir ici?
Vraiment, c'est un problème pour trouver où passer la nuit. Parce que les gens, certains gens passent la nuit debout. D'autres, ils prennent la position assise comme ce que vous voyez ici. Et il y en a qui sont parvenus à trouver des places dans ces bâtiments-ci. Mais eux aussi, ils sont concentrés, ils sont entassés dans un même coin.
The seething prison courtyard was bad enough. Inside, it was worse.
It's almost impossible to convey what it's like down here. The camera doesn't show smell, the camera doesn't show heat. There are, I don't know, maybe 500 people in this little tiny room. Over there are lavatories, perhaps 2 of them, and I'm told there's 2 more upstairs. That's for 8,000 people. There's coughing, there's sickness, there's people with their feet festering. It's the most extraordinary scene I've ever seen in my life, and I hope I never see anything like it again.
Wherever we went in the prison, there was rank filth, fetid air, and listless men packed cheek by jowl. In only one place was there some room to breathe, the room set aside for prisoners under 16 years old. Over 100 of them, some as young as 10. Faced with the sheer impossibility of cramming more men into the prisons, the government has stopped arresting people, at least for now.
On a été surpris. Nous n'avions pas prévu le génocide. Mais si bien que pour le moment, nous avons plus de 33 000 détenus en prison. Et je dois vous dire qu'on en aura plus. On en aura plus vu que le génocide a été opéré systématiquement et massivement. Donc, les arrestations aussi, je ne peux pas craindre qu'elles soient massives. Le problème que nous devons surmonter, c'est d'héberger ces gens, de les entretenir, de les nourrir et de les faire juger en vie.
Their problem is, how are they going to actually try all of those people? If the infrastructure in this country, the judicial infrastructure, is completely wiped out. 80% of the personnel, that is judges, defense counsel, prosecutors, are either dead outside of the country or in prison or accused of having taken part in the genocide.
In the only functioning courtroom in Kigali, 4 of the capital's 5 remaining judges are hearing a civil case, a dispute over land. There have been no criminal cases for months. Even if lawyers and judges could be found, there are no police investigators to question witnesses and prepare the evidence. What's needed, desperately, is money and skilled help. All that's arrived so far are promises. But even if the Rwandan courts were functioning, they could not try the men who planned and organized the genocide. All have escaped abroad. That job is supposed to be done by a United Nations tribunal, set up to prosecute crimes against humanity in Rwanda. But the International Tribunal has been making no unseemly haste. It too has been starved of funds. So far, it's done almost nothing at all.
The United Nations has a funding problem which has been well aired and well exposed, and it really just can't commit itself to spend money which it doesn't have.
But just across Rwanda's borders, in the sprawling refugee camps in Zaire and Tanzania, money, food, and international charity has been pouring in for a year. The biggest camps of all around Goma in Zaire. Hundreds of thousands of Hutus fled here last year to escape from the victorious army of the Tutsi-dominated Rwandan Patriotic Front. At Magunga camp last July, the roads were lined with the corpses of cholera victims. Now there are permanent water supplies, restaurants, video cinemas. A thriving semi-permanent city of 200,000, housed in blue plastic, courtesy of the UN High Commission for Refugees. Tuesday is ration day for Cyprien Ruhakama. For the UNHCR, he's a refugee whose wife and children must be fed. But to the government in Kigali, these camps are still providing food and shelter for thousands of perpetrators of the genocide, and a base from which its enemies can plan a re-invasion of Rwanda. In recent weeks, it has barred all food convoys from crossing Rwanda to Zaire. As a result, the ration, which Cyprien's wife Marie now has to try to stretch over a whole week, is barely half as much as the family really needs. The government in Rwanda says the solution is simple. The refugees should come home. Those who took no part in the genocide, they say, have nothing to fear. Cyprien Ruhakama doesn't believe a word of it.
twe ibyo batubwira ni ibintu by'ibinyoma n'abajeho ntibaboneka akenshi abantu barashize kandi abatangiye intambara nibo bategeka bica twagiye guhunga ari buduhunga murumva ko tutagenda ngo tubisukire azitwe baje batsemba.
It's a point of view which dominates the camps. The present leaders of refugee opinion, people like camp president Augustin Harindintwari, claim they have no connection with the former government and army. They say the government in Kigali should negotiate with them for the safe return of the refugees. But the government regards many of these men as responsible for the genocide. And they, in a startling revision of history, regard the government in the same light. The massacre of Tutsis, they claim, is a manufactured myth.
Quand vous êtes attaqué, et que vous êtes menacé, vous avez le droit de vous défendre. Vous avez le droit de vous défendre. Quand vous vous défendez, quelquefois il y a... Je ne peux pas nier qu'il n'y a pas eu quand même de théorie.
But the High Commission for Human Rights, for example, has actually documented these crimes. It's been to the churches where hundreds of women and children were butchered. This was not a matter of self-defense.
Mais de toute façon, il faut voir. Quand le FPR avançait à l'intérieur du pays, beaucoup de gens fouillaient vers les églises. Et le FPR les trouvait là et il massacrait ces gens. Ce que vous avez vu, c'est le FPR qui a fait ça.
It's a version of events which no one outside the camps believes. But only the International Tribunal can resolve the impasse. And if it's not resolved, then sooner or later there will be war once more. A few kilometers from Magunga, at the end of a rough dirt track through a banana plantation, is a mysterious camp run by the former Rwandan army. It's a place where the UNHCR has been forbidden to go, and where we were warned it would be dangerous to film without permission.
Watch out. Camera down.
We were forbidden to film anything beyond the barrier. We were, however, allowed to take our vehicle into a compound in the camp and interview a spokesman for the former army.
On dit, il y a des rumeurs.
I asked Colonel Bahufiti if it was true that the former army is still training in Zaire and is still receiving arms. Not surprisingly, he denied it.
Bon, concernant les entraînements, je n'en connais pas, il n'y en a pas.
It's a denial that few impartial observers believe.
Well, I think this can't be true because we are still in a war process, and I could not imagine that the former Rwandese army just stays like this without doing anything. They are, of course, trying to build up a new military force. I don't know what their goal is, but probably I think the war process is not over anyway.
What almost everyone agrees on is that a new war is a definite possibility.
Pour nous, la solution privilégiée, c'est la solution pacifique, les négociations. Et ça, et pour ça, la barre est dans le camp de Kigali. Mais, comme vous voyez la situation qui évolue dans la région, je ne peux pas vous garantir qu'il ne peut pas y avoir un moment à l'autre une explosion quelque part qui puisse relancer la guerre.
On the other side of the border, the orphans of the genocide are being taught that the victory of the Rwandan Patriotic Front must be defended. Without justice, the next generation in Rwanda, it seems, will be condemned to tread the same old path. The dance of war, the dance of vengeance, the dance of death.